And I am on. So I'm outside. I'm in one of my favorite places, man. I'm in the good old Oak Park. This place is pretty solid. It is a stomping ground for me, and a lot of good memories in Oak Park. I grew up in the Austin neighborhood, so Austin is a stone's throw away from Oak Park. Actually, the guy who developed Oak Park, his name is something Austin. I can't remember the name. I'll probably have to put it in the show notes or the comments. But it is the same developer was the guy who built the Austin neighborhood in Chicago, west side of Chicago. And yeah, I mean, he had a big vision. So Oak Park definitely kind of was the probably the crown jewel for him. So I decided to just chill out for a second. I got my feet in the grass. Do a quick show of the feet real quick. But this is a moment I just want to share about, like, how we overcome. I've had to deal with a lot of things in the last year and a half, but really they just were undealt with things for 20 plus years, maybe, of just not realizing like how much of my parenting was lacking. And it is it's important that we try to look back and realize what our parents can do and not to shame them because there's no way that we're going to be perfect. Just like if you're a parent now, there's no way you're going to be perfect. There's gaps that you're not going to be able to fill. And it is important that we even recognize that because we cannot fulfill all things, it's important that we have a community. So I think things like church or having a spiritual community is going to be important for those who want to build, right? Who want to be able to have stability in a world that is creating more and more instability because of the pace. I think the pace in which we live this life is causing us to have all this instability, fluidity, which fluidity is good, but in order to be able to be solid, you have to be able to stop at a certain point and kind of smell the roses. Uh, I had a conversation earlier with myself, by the way, but that conversation just went over how we probably don't put enough into our own accountability. It's if we really think about it, we're the HR of our lives. Our lives are full of here, let me turn this down. Our lives are really, really full of people, events, circumstances, and situations that when we look at it, we have made the decisions that put us there. So if we have people in our lives and they do wrong by us, okay, that happens, right? It's unfortunate. It's a reality that a lot of people deal with, is that they are not being treated the way that they think that they should be treated. However, if we stay in relationships and we stay in situations that don't serve us and they can repeat, then that's really on us. Like, say, fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me two times, shame on me, right? Because I must have learned to not be in that situation anymore or address it. We're not children anymore where we have to be forced to be around people, to be at jobs we don't like. Or if we're going to be there, at least to address what you observe. If you swallow disrespect, if you continue to allow others to disrespect you, then you really don't respect yourself. You really don't have a high self esteem. And the reality is that you possibly think you deserve this bad treatment, even though you don't like it. I dealt with that for a long time. I worked for a guy who, from the start of us working together, it was disrespect. People who worked with me can attest to it. He he definitely, talked really bad about me to my face, honestly. But the opportunity was great. It was a community of really wealthy individuals who, it was just considered a blessing to be in that environment. However, it made me realize after the fact that how much that place robbed me. There's no amount of money that could have been paid for me to trade again. Like if I had to go back in time, knowing everything I know now, to trade everything that I potentially had uh, for money that's gone, right? That money is gone. And it was a lesson. It was a long lesson, bro. And it came with some excitement. It came with some thrills. It came with some fake relationships. It really helped me understand like how fake people can be and how fake I can be to myself, to fit an image. A lot of this world is image. A lot of this world is people who sit around and they try to project who they want the world to think of them as. I did it. I did it. Am I doing it right now? Possibly. I have to sit back and look at myself. And the only way that we don't project is that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and talk about the things that make us feel uncomfortable. At that point, you're no longer projecting, you're emanating. You're coming from the spaces that scare you, right? If you're only coming from the places that either are strengths, that's one thing, right? You can project your strengths, and that doesn't make you not real, right? But if you're projecting a false self, then that is absolutely an insecurity, right? That is you already acknowledging that you don't have or you are not actually that thing that you're trying to get the world to believe. That's how I am. I'm someone who for a long time knew that I could look the part, right? I was blessed with certain just gifts, right? I have an ability to speak well, okay? At times. If I'm not in my full beingness, that goes away, right? I am socially valued as somewhat attractive, okay? Somewhat. At least that's the validation I received. For a long time, I never thought that. I never thought that I was an attractive person. Um, just because I fell into the marketing of like what attractive people are, and then that's what I think I tried to emulate. I tried to emulate. Oh, these are attractive people. Let me buy the clothes of attractive people. Let me talk the way that attractive people talk. And it's only so much of that copying that you can do before you start to really feel lost within that. Some people just get really good at it though. They get really good at playing the game. I just get tired of it though. Because I feel that's one of my strengths. If I were gonna say like what's a real strength of mine is that I still feel. I still sit and like talk to myself in like silence, I guess you could say, and say like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel like I have to portray this image in order to be accepted in society in this way? What am I trying to attract? Even in my partnerships and partners that I was with, it was more so consumer based, if that makes sense. I was trying to get partners that were socially validated. I think that's a big problem with relationships right now is that people are looking for that image because they want to attach that image to theirs. It's almost like what's that show, that movie where the cars join with other cars and they like transformers. People are trying to like make their partner their complementary image. So, that person has to fit the career. They have to fit the look, you know. If that show, we say like that show speed, back where I'm from, like so we would say if a person looked in your what we grade you as, that person's in your grade. So what people consider out of your league. And you think about all that, that's all societal conditioning. Because really the league should be based upon your ethics, your moral, and like your desire for the future. If we're always attaching to people based upon their like sexual virility or their appearance, and it's very, very animalistic brain, or what we call reptilian brain. or limbic system, like, the fear of not having someone that is going to be accepted in society, because we understand that attractiveness gets you somewhere in this society. It's an immature culture. We live in a very immature culture because everything's based upon superficiality. So we get upset when we get and run into superficial people because we choose superficial. And when we get the consequences of superficiality, because depth has substance. So if something is heavy, dense, and it has a real gravity to it, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to stay consistent and firm. But that is something that is practiced. That's something that is put in motion and instilled. We don't have that installation process now. Everything is like quick downloads, quick facades, quick fixes, because if we really had a developed character, that would be a hard, thorough, arduous process, where you really have to get into self discovery, self mastery. I don't even think we have any education systems in place to do that for people. That would come from the community, that would come from the environment around you, right? If that environment is healthy and cultivating, you will be getting a steady dose of this redirection or this refinement over your time. And then even after that, after a certain point, you will go through a dedicated time of initiation where you get exposed and you get challenged to come out and show the best self of you. I feel like that's what I'm going through right now. I'm going through this phase or this process of initiation where I am having to answer some hard questions about myself. The fears that I have. I've had fears. And what I've decided to do in the face of those fears, I ran sometimes. I didn't show courage. Running can be drug use, which I've done. So I've gone into that. Running can be validation seeking. Running can be using and manipulating and getting, like, choosing success or striving as your method of being okay, instead of actually learning how to be okay with where you are and your problems, or letting people know that you're not okay and that you can't solve your problems. The shame culture. The shame culture it forces fight or flight a lot of times. When we can't do it and we don't want to admit that we aren't strong enough to handle our problems and that we don't really know what to do, you could crash out, you can lash out, you can act out. What I mean by act out, like, people get into, like, hypersexuality, people get into hyper status seeking, where they try to outwork people and perform. Like, they just become super performance based people, which this society applauds, right? Applaud achievement. But if that achievement comes from a place of toxicity in which you are always achieving in order to level up and be better than the next man, then that place, that origin of that achievement is still coming from a weak place. So that's just that's why I don't judge people's success or failures, like, because you don't know where it's coming from. It could be coming from a good place, absolutely. It could be coming from a place of, like, just genuinely wanting to be your best self because you want to discover and overcome the lethargy and the place of apathy that can come. Where you want to be able to self actualize. That's a great place. But if it's from a place of competition and validation, then you already don't believe you're not discovering something out about yourself. You are wishing to be seen. You desire, you may desire the approval of others, either secretly or not. Um, it's been a journey, man. It's really been a place of wanting to understand how can I move with balance throughout this world, right? Because it's so easy to go to the left or to the right. It's so easy confuse real love for fake love. I spoke with my sister about this, and I say, in this type of world, this type of society, because love really isn't real, and it's very, very conditional and very short, uh, short in its time span and like time frame. It becomes a situation where we really will even accept fake love or flattery for the sake of feeling warm, even for a little bit. Real love warms you throughout, even when you're not in the presence of it, because you feel it. If someone really connects to you and really invests in you and really sees you for who you are, weaknesses and all, and still can see the real, like, I guess we could say the God in you, the light in you, when a person invests and is willing to sit there for that time with no thought of what you could possibly do for them, right? They don't want anything. They don't want your sex. They don't want your money. They don't want your validation. They don't want to feel, and that's something I ran into a lot because I tend to help people see the unseen, the places that they're stepping that they can't see that they're stepping. And for a while, I loved the validation of like, damn, Brandon, you helped. It's like the therapist. The therapist may fall in love with the feeling of helping others. And even that is okay, but not to seek it, not to actively seek it. When you're called upon, when you are requested, then you show up. But don't seek it and don't overdo it. It's like cooking, finding out how much to give, what temperature, how long to leave it in the oven, and then take it out and be done. And don't touch it no more. Like, don't like when you kill a dead horse, or what they say, or beat a dead horse, or whatever the statement is. I feel like that's a lot of what we kind of find ourselves in, is that we kind of keep tapping on that button, that help me button, right? Help me feel okay. You can do it through drugs. You can do it through other people. You can do it through just not being okay in your own space. So you're seeking everything. Some people do it through exercise. I watched it firsthand. Exercise, which is something that is genuinely good for you, can become an addiction. Anything that's good. Water. There's a point where you can drink too much water. So anything that's good for you can become bad. There is no such thing as really truly right or wrong. It is like, what is the reason and how much of it? And is this the best approach to it? Is there a better approach? Am I being lazy? Am I trying to get a feeling of comfort and community in a toxic way, in a way that will rob me on the back end? That's wisdom. Sometimes you got to learn a hard lesson. It's the real sense of intelligence is how long will you learn the same lesson? How many times will you continue to learn that this is bad for you? How many times will you fool yourself in thinking that I'm going to do the same thing again and again and get a different result? Insanity. You have to change the equation. You have to, in order to seek balance. It's okay to get it wrong if you try a different way and you got it wrong. But if you are going to try to approach the problem the same way every time and end up with the same solution and still just sit there befuddled, then you are not here. You're not here with us. You're in a place of fear. You're in a place of fear. Sorry, I'm gonna stress this out real quick. Just in a place of fear. You're in a place of potential scarcity. And it's almost like your brain is put on a loop of just repeat, repeat, repeat. Even though it's not working, you feel stuck, you feel trapped in your decisions. And that's when you know you need help. You need someone else to interject a new method, a new way of dealing with that problem. But we're too prideful. We act as if we don't. We're okay as we are. If we can start to realize that we are not okay as we are, we can maybe get forward. But this society and this culture shames everyone for the things that they get wrong, for the paths that they go down that end up not being good for them, for that person. Okay, it's a decision. With children, we don't do that. We shouldn't do that, at least. When they make a bad decision, we redirect. We show empathy. We show love. We get why they maybe went down there. That's real humanity. Understanding that that person went down that path, not because they're a bad person, maybe because they're a scared person. And they thought that it was safe over there, and it was for a little bit. But now that thing is the thing that ends up trapping them. It's like maybe in a fire, you run into a room because you get away from the smoke temporarily, but the fire's still raging on the outside. And after a while, you're going to be consumed with smoke. So that place of temporary solitude was great, but you still ended up not freeing yourself. You didn't face the fear of going through the fire, potentially having to take a risk and do something very scary, very challenging, very that's going to require a ton of bravery and a ton of communication to the other people who are trying to help you on the other side. You're going to feel insecure about it for a minute. But if you go through it, you might save yourself. But if you hide, if you run from it, only for a little bit of time when you feel like you're okay. But the anxiety will sit and dig at you on the back end. That's why we have this anxiety and this depression uptick in this culture. It's because we're running. We're running from the problem, and we have so many things to run to. A ton of things. Entertainment. Entertainment is this escape. It's escape from the hard reality, the hard truth of the real existential questions that we have as humans. Community, love, growth of character, growth of not just material wealth, but spiritual wealth. Engaging, learning who you are through yourself and through others. That means community, communion, peace with the self. You know what I'm saying? Peace and being able to assist and be a plus to humanity. Being someone who drives life, preserves it, instead of being someone who consumes it. If you're consuming, then you're always going to be in a state of like lethargy. And sometimes when you're always in that state, you're going to seek more of it for that temporary hit of life and energy. Because like food does give you energy, but in that breakdown process, you have lethargy. You have a feeling of like heaviness. And then when we're always consumed, that's why you get buyer's remorse after you buy sometimes. You buy it, you peaked up, you got the energy, you got the dopamine fix, and then all of a sudden you got the crash. Because you got it. You got the stimulus. And now you're done. So what next? How about what now? What now is much better than what next. Because what now, you can be and be present and really start to feel within yourself what it is you need for you and what you need for your environment and your space. You are attached to the space. Your feet are on the ground. The space around you, the environments that you place yourself in. And if you're the people that you're around, yes, they are your environment, but I'm talking about if your circumference around you, if you just have to heal that, a circle, draw a circle around you, like be around me. I would just say 5 feet in every direction. Make that your space and own that and create peace there and move with that peace following you like a flashlight hovering above you, like a spotlight. And then work yourself to a place where that light can grow bigger and bigger. You do that, life will start to eventually enter your space and have to cross that line on your terms, right? Those are boundaries. That boundary between that light and that dark is your boundary. If you do not respect that boundary, then you dim your lights. And that's it. Happy Tuesday, y'all.